just mean that it looks like Clapton's gonna ask out Ione, which makes about as much sense as that stupid movie Torque.
Give me your iPod, salad eater.
Life sucks.
Joseph Kahn, I appreciate you taking the time and chatting with me and everything else. Director of Detention. I did a little research on you, found out that you're actually from Houston.
I am from Houston.
So how does it feel to be back in the H?
I love being back in the H. I come here quite often, actually. I still have a house here with my mom.
Oh, okay, cool.
And so I visit family, and I'm here.
So is there anything that you particularly miss from Houston that you don't have in LA, like Whataburger?
Whataburger is definitely one of them. Taco Cabana. I mean, Houston's a comfortable place.
Right.
You know, it's such a great place to be. The way the freeways are huge, the skies are great. You know, even stepping out of a plane. And I know when you're from Houston, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with this hot weather all the time.
Right.
For me, like when they say, when you come home and you feel that warmth inside, well, I literally feel that gush of like humidity. It makes me feel good.
Yeah, especially when you land in the airport and you get out, you just feel that Houston.
Houston feels like Houston, and it's fantastic when you've been away from it.
Right, right. So you went to NYU, I heard. You did that for about a year or so, and then you got out and you started making music videos. You've worked with everybody. I saw your montage that you had on your Vimeo page, and Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake. I mean, the list goes on. Like, what was your first break in getting, how did you get into that?
Well, I started doing it here, actually.
Oh, really?
I had a company here in Houston back in '93, and I was working in a movie theater and pitching myself to any local record company that I could get my hands on. And eventually I started working for Rap-A-Lot Records here.
You worked at Rap-A-Lot?
I did, and I worked in the 3rd Ward and 5th Ward, and started working with groups like 5th Ward Boys and all that.
Wow!
I did, and it was funny because I was just like this little nerdy Asian kid running around in the ghetto,
right?
And with no fear because I was so naive, like I didn't know when they were rapping about murdering or drugs or stuff like that stuff was real. You know, like to me I thought, oh, it's just like movies or something like that.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, these guys were literally coming out. Sometimes a guy would literally come out because they'd wait for a video, and the guy would literally come out of jail and then step right into the camera, And here I am just shooting. Like I was basically just a little moron.
Well, you did it. Rumor has it you did it all by yourself, right? In
the beginning, I did a lot of stuff by myself. I would DP and I would edit and things like that. I had to learn everything from the ground up because, quite frankly, the budgets were so low, and too, quite frankly, a lot of the crew were afraid to go into those neighborhoods.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, I just did whatever it took to get there, and it made me a much better filmmaker on 2 levels. One, on a technical level, like it allowed me to know how to do anything.
Right.
And on a second level, because it was such a culture that was so different from like my growing up in Jersey Village High School, which is a suburb.
Right.
It made me realize the world is a bit different than I thought it was, and I could now look at art from someone else's eyes. Because I just wanted to emulate Madonna videos, and these guys just wanted to shoot rims and cars and hydraulics. And I just started understanding what that meant.
So you found out. So what advice do you have for guys that are trying to get into, filmmaking videos or just movies?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is that since there's so much media around and there's so much access to it, you can get very confused in terms of having a perspective. Because as a filmmaker is different than, say, an audience. An audience everybody has an opinion of art. That's just the nature of what it is, And it's a very valid thing. I mean, you need an audience to make movies, but if you want to be a filmmaker, an audience is very critical of what they see done by somebody else.
Right.
A filmmaker is very critical of what they do themselves. Like you are 10 times harder on yourself than any other movie. Like I don't care if another music video quote unquote sucks. I care if my thing sucks. And so I spend 10 times as much effort trying to deconstruct my things and rip them apart. There's nothing that anybody can say about any piece of work that I do that I haven't deconstructed 10 times harder. And that's the trick behind becoming a better filmmaker. You're more brutal on yourself than anything else, and that is the key towards becoming better.
Interesting. So, 1999, Super Mega?
Yep.
How did you come up with that name? That sounds pretty big. Super Mega.
It was just part of my sort of love of anime.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And say video games and things like that. And it just felt like some sort of weird Japanese, mixture of words just to make it sound cool.
Right.
It's just not nonsensically nice.
So starting in 1999, and now here we are, fast forward 2012. How much has Super Mega grown?
Well, Super Mega is just my personal company.
Okay.
I work with a company called HSI. I'm pretty much out of the company business because I made a decision some time ago that, like, do I want to be a company owner
Right.
or do I want to be a director? You know, like, and maybe I can do both, but I felt like even focusing a little bit on that would detract from like what I really need to do, which is focus on the art.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically just completely decided I'm going to focus everything on the art and become the best director I can be. I don't want to be an actor. I don't want to be a producer. You know, I don't want to be like, you know, an internet star. I don't want to be like whatever. I just want to be the best director I can be, and that's all I focused on.
Well, speaking of music videos, I just want to say thank you very much for Britney Spears' Toxic video and Womanizer when she's in the sauna. I just want to say high five to that. That was that your idea, or was that
Brittany wanted to do the diamonds and Toxic, and then I convinced her to be naked in Womanizer.
Yes. Appreciate that. So then you, speaking of directing, Torque, you did that movie.
I did.
How is that? Is there a big difference between doing movies compared to music videos?
Yeah, humongous. Both humongous and both not really. Because they're both filmmaking. At the,
Right.
at the core of it, a director shows up on set and places a camera and tells a story. You know?
Mm-hmm.
The thing about a movie is that there's a lot of money at stake, so there's a lot more interference in that process. It's not as pure from a studio perspective as opposed to a music video where essentially I get to do whatever I want for the most part. You know,
Right.
I have certain parameters that the record company wants me to hit. As long as I hit that, they let me go execute it however I want. Movies, it's like every decision. I remember like I was on Torque and I would like place a camera somewhere and literally the script supervisor would look over my shoulder and then write a report to the studio and saying he's placing his camera there and it will never cut together. And of course she was wrong, but then all of a sudden I would have phone calls from the studio going, why are you placing your camera there?
Wow.
It was like that. It was like if I wanted to put a costume, it would have to get approved by everybody and stuff like that. Maybe it was just the nature of being a first-time director and,
Right.
and not being trusted, but it was a very hard transition on that level, on a political level. Now the end result of the movie is obviously controversial. It's turned into a cult film now, but
Right.
at the time it was not liked.
Right.
You know, but you know, in my opinion, I think it's a very mismaligned film. I like it. You know, it was 70% of what I wanted, which is a passing grade.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of it, and I think it's a very good first-time movie. But like, I felt like for my next movie, I want complete control.
And with speaking of that, Detention, and for people that haven't seen the trailer, what's the movie about?
The movie is about high school. It's about teenagers. It's about life today. It's set in the trope of a horror comedy. Whereas here's, let me put it this way. Most horror comedies start saying it's a horror movie that you reveal is a comedy, right?
Right.
I'm saying it's a horror comedy that reveals to be something else.
And that definitely is. I mean, watching that movie, I was like, it felt like a crazy music video. I mean, it was just, there were times where I was like, okay, I'm getting it now. And then it just threw me in a different direction. I'm like, now I got to figure that out and this and that. So I noticed in the movie, you had a lot of social media, texting, Twittering, everything else. Do you find that now having a lot to do with filmmaking now, like with technology? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I firmly believe that one, the audience today lives in a completely different universe than someone 20 years ago. Okay, because 20 years ago we didn't have the internet.
Right.
We didn't have this wonderful thing where you could pick up a phone and suddenly stream a video. You know.
Right.
And especially kids today. Kids today have a completely different wired brain. In fact, I guarantee you that most kids, if they watch a movie, they're watching it in their laptop with the movie on one part of the screen, Skyping on the other, maybe Wikipedia to like get answers on a test on one part if they're doing their homework, and then on maybe looking at porn on the fourth part of it, you know? And that's the way they watch their movies.
Right.
And I just realized that in today's world, like, the reason why so many kids, when they go into a movie theater, are texting during the whole time is because these movies are paced and made in a way that were formulated for someone 20 years ago. Their brains are different now. Their
Right.
brains are literally wired different. And I feel like if you're gonna make a movie for teenagers today, you've gotta challenge them. Because if you don't challenge them, they're so smart. They're gonna get bored, they shut off, and they start doing other things. This movie is like an entertaining movie that's a challenge. If you literally text for like, you know, a good 10, 20, 30 seconds, you're gonna miss something.
Oh, you are.
And you're gonna lose.
You can't text, you can't talk, you can't get up and go get it. You got to get everything ready for that movie because it definitely takes you for a ride.
You have to pay attention to this movie. I was trying to make a movie that was so compelling. You gotta turn off your phone.
Yeah, definitely. So my last question, and then I'm gonna leave you be. Cinderella. Am I gonna see a movie is that gonna be on the big screen? I mean, because I'm watching it, I was like, is this a movie? And I was asking I was like, is this a movie that's already, I'm missing something? But, I mean, you think about making Cinderella?
We had discussions. We actually wrote a backstory to Cinderella.
Nice.
But if you actually look at Cinderella, she's actually a metaphor. You know that.
Yeah.
Because Cinderella, we just put a H in front of the R to make it funny, and then we wrapped her in bandages. She's a prom queen and stuff like that. But my main character Riley is Cinderella because she's really like she wants to go to the ball. You know, the Prince Charming doesn't know she exists. You know, she's got the other person that like is getting all the attention, and then she loses her shoe and gets it at the end.
There you go. See,
So it's a metaphor.
I got it now. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk. Detention actually hits theaters April 13th, so Friday the 13th, what a perfect day, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.